Ladies and gentlemen, this is an emergency broadcast because the future of our food supply and our food security depends on what you and I do today. From Reuters, in Brazil, farming lobby is warning that due to the inability to ship their goods to market, due to the inability to find labor to do the harvest, and due to shortages of farm equipment and parts, their grains and coffee and sugarcane production is being severely affected. They're not able to do what they need to do to harvest their crops and get them to market. Remember this article from Bloomberg. Oh, there's plenty of food in the world, but we're not able to get it where it's needed. And they talk about how logistics failures are causing these supply shortages, and we're doing everything we can to fix this, but in fact that's not the case. In Argentina, we read that they are clamping down. More than 70 of their municipalities have clamped down explicitly on the movement of farm produce. This is completely contrary to the cover story. They are precluding people from getting the supplies they need to grow food, and they are preventing that food from getting to market. This is affecting their soybean deliveries that go to crushing plants where they turn those into soy meal, which is one of the primary sources of animal feed. This in turn will have tremendous effects on the price and availability of all sorts of meat sources. It's not just the production itself and the farmers and the ranchers that are being affected and will continue to be affected by this. It's also the processing plants and the packaging plants, everything downstream from that. Staff are walking out of their jobs despite having been designated as critical parts of our infrastructure. For instance, here in Ireland, staff at ABP and Moy Park sites are walking out due to their virus concerns. Those companies are two of Northern Ireland's biggest food processing sites, and they've walked off the job. That means that food is not getting created for you. That means those shelves are going to stay empty. I can be no more clear. That's happening everywhere. There are tons of reports about it. Here's another one. Here in the United States, Purdue Farms workers are walking out due to their concerns over the virus. From the article, quote, 50 workers at Purdue Farms plant in Georgia have walked off of their job as of Monday because they don't feel safe, thanks to the panic around this pandemic. While Purdue says, quote, we're doing everything we can to take care of our associates, and we're desperately trying to continue to produce safe and reliable food. But now they are not. Now no one is producing that food for you. You're going to have to do it yourself. Remember also these labor shortages. We just saw this article, last video from Germany, where they say our asparagus is rotting in the fields because we don't have the seasonal workers here. We've closed our borders. We don't have our migrant workers that are here to harvest our crops. And farmers are worrying about major crop losses. So how are countries reacting to that? Well, they're also stopping exporting food. We've been anticipating this for years now as the crop losses have escalated through the grand solar minimum. I have some commenters saying, Christian, I'm tired of this virus scared nonsense you're putting out. When are you going to get back to the grand solar minimum? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the grand solar minimum. This is the natural consequence of the escalating crop failures and the threats to our food security to the point where shelves had started being empty. They had to have something happen to lock down the food supply and take control of the situation. And now they've induced also a demand shock in addition to the supply shock we were already entering into. So this is why, and we expected countries to stop exporting as soon as shit got real, and now it's real. And so they're no longer exporting. We saw Russia halt their exports of grains, and from Bloomberg, countries are creeping towards food protectionism. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't do that unless there are shortages, unless there is something they expect to have happen. And then we can see it. It's easy to expect that because we can see it happening. A growing number of countries are signing pledges to resist export controls, but some countries are leaning in the other direction because they can see what's happening. What does that look like? Well, France is desperately trying to assemble a shadow army of fruit pickers. Given their huge amounts of unemployed people, why don't we get those people out in the fields? That's exactly what they're doing. France on Tuesday appealed to workers who are laid off by the coronavirus crisis to help farmers pick fruit and vegetables that will otherwise be left to rot in the fields due to the shortage of seasonal workers because our borders are closed. The United Kingdom doing the same thing, calling to resurrect the land army from World War II, where to help farming industry during this pandemic. And we read a little bit of history here. A new land army, which during the Second World War, 80,000 women were joining this land army to help cover labor shortages in agriculture and keep the nation fed. Remember the We Can Do It, the iconic images of women in factories in the United States. Well, that was happening, of course, in the United Kingdom too, where women were drafted effectively into agriculture to make sure that food production was maintained, that we could continue to feed both the troops and the country. And so now this MP is saying we need to get some of these thousands of people who've been laid off in this lockdown, and we need to get them out in the fields harvesting food because we don't have our seasonal workers. Surely here in the United States, this is more from Britain, surely here in the United States we're doing the same thing. We've got people who need work, we've got farmers who need help. Can we connect the dots here? No. We cannot, because we are under attack. This is siege warfare, and there are people who are desperately trying to take total control over the food supply to get homesteaders and small farms and business owners out of the equation so that they own everything from their robotic indoor vertical farms straight through to the retail, that Whole Foods with their and Amazon with their drones delivering it to your doorstep because you're locked down. They would love to keep this going as long as possible, and they are. California now using Chinese-made patrol drones armed with night vision to make sure that no one ever leaves their house, let alone work in your garden. No, this is blasphemy. You will stay in your lockdown and you will eat our cockroach milk. In fact, the mayor of Los Angeles is going so far as to say, if you fail on your own prerogative to shut down your non-essential businesses and operations, fine, we'll just turn off your power and your water. Good luck. It's siege warfare. It can be no more clear. So rather than connecting those dots and making sure that the U.S. food production continues, now we're introducing as many additional hurdles and barriers and regulations and problems as possible. And that's why food pantries are shutting down. We see a quarter of the food pantries in Chicago, according to this report, have shut down just within the last 2 weeks. That's 112 of them. And people, as we see here, are calling us really, really scared. Because these people need food, and their short-term food security already is at risk. Farmers are hurting too. I have heard from dozens of ranchers and farmers and small producers who are hurting in various ways. Here is just one, Rex, who was a supplier to Denver restaurants that are all shut down now, so that's 80% of his business lost off the top. He's got meat that he needs to sell for his operation, and he says, I need your help. That's why I've been emphasizing in my past few videos, align with local farmers and ranchers, people close to you, because that's where we can make the biggest difference, is in our neighborhoods. Find these people. They need your help. They need your support. They may even need your labor on their operation. And if you're out of a job, what better way to connect these things? Go ensure your own food production and help them out. There are plenty of farmers who would love to get direct-to-market arrangements because the markets they had been servicing, whether due to shipping failures or the restaurants shutting down or whatever, this is complete chaos right now, and they have food that needs to find its way to people's mouths. Now, the cover story from DHS is that food production is a critical part of infrastructure. And so why aren't we seeing that honored? Here is some guidance on the essential critical infrastructure workforce, and I've blown it up here so that it's very clear to us. It is not just the big ag companies. It's us too. It's homesteaders. It's small family farms. Any food production, or even raising animals in the name of food production, is all part of our nation's critical infrastructure. And you wouldn't guess that because the mayor of LA is out there turning off your water and your power. But in fact, that is the law. And so, with reference to the law, and of course the fact that we are a constitutional republic, we've seen these letters going out that say this employee is designated a part of the critical infrastructure and you need to let them roam around and do whatever they need to do regardless of the time of day. Well, first of all, this is a tell that we're going into even more strict of a lockdown, that there will be people to whom, I mean, obviously, if you're being given papers, there are going to be people who are asking you for your papers. So this tells us, first of all, the trajectory we're on, and you've got people like Jeff Bezos warning that things are going to get much worse before they even begin to get better. So given that trajectory, we need to be looking at this, and the fact that these letters are only going out from big companies who have been told that they need to give this to their employees. Well, I don't accept that. I refuse to allow big companies and big ag to take over our food supply. So please draft your own letter that says you are producing food and therefore you are part of your critical infrastructure. Or if you don't want to do that, I have created this letter here, which you can find on iceagefarmer.com/COVID. And there's a PDF version as well that I've tweeted. My Twitter is iceagefarmer. And this letter is adapting the language straight from those other companies' workforce authorizations. It references the part of the law that gives us authorization to continue operating so that we can continue growing our own food and use it at your own risk. Hopefully there's never a need. But what we need to do now is grab a letter like this or your own and go out and secure whatever materials you need to grow your own food. I do not accept that we are being shut down and taken over by big companies. This is not an acceptable outcome for me, and I will fight it until the end. So you go to your Safeway or your Kroger or whatever you've got near you, and you pick up the one bag of potatoes to which you are now limited, because we've entered food rationing already. And you put those potatoes in the ground and you start growing them. Potatoes are the densest, most calorie-rich thing you can grow, and that's why I put that first on my list. You also look at aquaponics. I've got people asking, I'm in an apartment, how do I grow my own food? You need to look at indoor farming or do this on your balcony or whatever you have available to you. And the reason I like aquaponics is, well, there are many reasons. It is an elegant solution to growing food. It can be done in any amount of small space, from a little aquarium with just a couple fish and some plants on top, scaling it up to these IBC totes that have been cut in half with some expanded clay pebbles in there. It works at any scale that you can afford. And it takes no inputs, so the fertilizer shortages that we're experiencing now, because we're not getting it from China, don't affect aquaponics. It's going to keep working as long as you can feed those fish, and they will keep feeding the plants. There are tons of great aquaponics videos on YouTube and out there. Rob Bob is like the canonical aquaponician, does tons of great builds, little tutorials. He's got wicking beds, all sorts of fantastic stuff you can learn from Rob Bob's Aquaponics. Check out his channel if you're interested in aquaponics. I too have done plenty of tutorials and examples of like this aquaponics system, which is still running 3 years later. Haven't ever had any problems except for a clogged pipe once in a while. Go in there and get the roots out of there because plants grow too big. So these are great ways to be growing your own food for yourself and your family. Do not wait any longer. If you're not growing your own food now and raising animals that can create protein for you, it's time. We are in a full-scale food wars. That's why I'm wearing this. The food wars are real, and they are making their move now under the guise of this virus panic. I also am obliged to mention that my Facebook page is being shut down right now because I refuse to give Facebook real-time access to my location. Go figure. So you're going to need now to make sure that you're accessing my work directly on iceagefarmer.com, which is a privately hosted server. No one can take that away. And I will be there. I refuse to go quietly into the night and start eating cockroach milk. That's not going to happen on my watch. And I need your help to keep this fight up. So please support my work. One of the ways you can do that is patreon.com/iceagefarmer. Your support, any dollar amount, is very much appreciated, because this is where we are now. Folks, thanks for spreading the word. This is the most important information that I can imagine bringing to anyone right now. And I think it needs to be shared with everyone out there that we are entering into food scarcity and that we all are a part of our own critical infrastructure of growing our own food. So take that letter, get yourself some potatoes, go to the hardware stores that are open, the big box stores, not the family ones, and get yourself some PVC and a grow table. You can build your own grow table with some pond liner. There's a million ways to do aquaponics. There's no one right way. It is both an art and a science. And it's fun, although now it's, the stakes are a little higher than they used to be. Best of luck to you. Please let me know what's working for you. You can reach out to me at iceagefarmer@protonmail.com. Be well, folks, and let's go build great ways of growing abundant, resilient food for our awesome communities around us and grow those communities. And let's go build great things.